Good morning, or whatever time it is when you're watching this. It's apparently not long after 7 o'clock in the morning, and it's a Saturday, so I'm filling myself up on cafe. I'm trying to feel a bit more alive. Now, I don't know if you've already watched my Who Am I video or the introduction video, but I'm just an average ASD dad. That's what it says. Where is it? Is it over there? Or is it over there? Oh, it's over there. Just an average ASD dad. It says so at the top of the channel. And we home educate. Now you may be asking why we home educate. That's because, as far as we're concerned, the school system failed our children. We currently have a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 5-year-old, and they were all in the school environment. The youngest was in nursery, so would have been 3, just about 4, when the COVID epidemic struck and everything shut down for the first big lockdown, which would have been March 2020. Is that right? Yeah, that sounds right. The oldest was year 3, I think. No, year 2. Would have been year 2. Now he was diagnosed with autism at age 3, so before he entered that school nursery. And he had a education health care plan, which in retrospect wasn't worth the money the paper it was written on, but it should have provided him with appropriate support, which over the time he was in that school environment frittered away to nothing. He certainly wasn't getting the support he required. And again, in retrospect, when we actually sort of tested him on the maths and English, which supposedly he was more than capable of, no, he wasn't. He couldn't understand it. He found it very difficult. But of course, at the time, we didn't know that. We were having other problems in the school, mostly about the care who's being provided, and that, like I say, the support just wasn't there for him. And if we'd known then what we know now, perhaps we would have begun home educating sooner. But the COVID epidemic gave us the opportunity to educate them at home, obviously using the information that the school had provided. So we did, and the closer it got to having to return back to school in September, the more we thought maybe home education is the way ahead for us. Because in that little period of time, so from the March through to the September, mid-August, I guess, when we finally made the decision, our children came on leaps and bounds. Just ridiculous. The youngest was selective mute. We knew he could talk, he could communicate reasonably well. He just chose not to. Outside the school environment, he started talking a lot, and he had a lot to say, including about how he was treated in the school by the staff and by the other children in the nursery, which a lot of this information had never come to light. His sister was then in foundation stage, so the next classroom, and the nursery and the foundation stage, the reception class, used to mix, and she backed up pretty much everything he said, because they they saw each other quite a lot. We realised, okay, there's something going on there. But we were outside school time. We didn't really have to deal with it. So we hadn't, and we've never been back, so we never have dealt with that. But she was very emotional. She was very upset a lot of the time. We'd gone through initial autism assessment for her, and they decided, the local authority this is, that she didn't have autism. She decided at about 3.5 that she had mental health problems. I'll let you think on that for a bit. A 3.5-year-old with mental health problems that doesn't have autism. I'm sure we'll be doing another video about that at some point. Our experience of autism assessment. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but that's not what we're dealing with now. This is a home education video on why we do it. But the opportunity arose when we chose to home educate. And now some people who've not done it, and I wish we'd done it sooner, I know I may have already said that once, people might want to know, like, are you allowed to? Well, yeah, you are. Again, if I'd done this sooner, perhaps we'd have done this sooner. But under the current British law, who knows if it's going to change, the 1996 Education Act of the UK, Section 7, I'm just going to read it, it's over there. Section 7 of the 1996 Education Act states that the parent of every child of compulsory school age shall cause him or her to receive efficient full-time education suitable A, to his age, ability and aptitude, and B, to any special educational needs he may have, either by regular attendance at school or otherwise. And home education would be an otherwise. I'll put a link down there somewhere to a website that anyone's interested in home education may want to look at, which is the Education Otherwise website. They're lovely people, and they can provide a lot of advice if you want to home educate. Anyway, home educating dad. Home education isn't necessarily an easy thing to do. You've got to be prepared to do it, and you've got to be prepared to put the time in if you want your children to flourish. And if you don't want your children to flourish, why are you home educating? But it depends how you approach it. Now, we are not homeschoolers. Homeschool, as I understand it, as I see it, is you work to a timetable. So this time of the day, you do this. You educate for this many hours, and then once it's out of the way, that's it. Now, our philosophy is everything is an opportunity to educate, which means our subjects, or the subjects we cover, are varied and many. But it also means our education time is any time, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 and a quarter days a year. We don't stick to school holidays, because why would we? We educate during school holidays and then take time off when there's not school holidays. And even when we're taking time off, we are still educating, because everything is an opportunity to educate. If you think I should get t-shirts made, I think that might be an idea. Then any of us interested in this kind of rubbish can get a t-shirt with, everything is an opportunity to home educate across the front. In fact, comment on it. Tell me. I'll get some made, and we can get some. We can all wear them. That'd be great. But yeah, everything is an opportunity to home educate at any time. I also take a bit of a holistic approach. I say we take a holistic approach to education in that most things are linked. So, you can find maths and English in almost everything, if you look hard enough. Baking a cake is education, because you've got weights and measures, you've got mixing, you've got the science of actually cooking. I brought in the shape of an egg. Nature gives us a natural arch in the egg, in that it's easy to break from the inside, so a chick can get out, very hard to break from the outside because of the arch shape, which leads you onto structures. Yeah, arches in cathedrals, stone pressing together, bridges. The Romans had it right. Everyone knows how this works. More support. Anyway, see, you've got me off my subject, which is why we home educate and how we home educate. Now, I can only speak from our experience. Sometimes home education is tiring. Because to get the best out of your children, as I see it, you don't want to be shouting at them, you don't want to be forcing them to do something. You want them to engage with what you're trying to do, because then they want to educate. We've proved it with our children. We give them the opportunity, we go, look at this, whatever this is. And most of the time, they want to find out more. I mean, in the last 12 months, more than 12 months, been studied how many volcanoes are going off in the world. Now, guess what? You can watch most of those live on YouTube. You can get information from YouTube. If your children ask you a question, which mine invariably do, that I don't know the answer to, then if you've got a computer, and I would hope you have if you're watching this video, because if you're not, that's a worry. You've got access to the whole World Wide Web. Now, a quick note on the World Wide Web, not all of it is true. If you've not found that one out by now, you will, don't worry. But most of the answers you're ever going to need are on the internet. It's lovely like that. Home education can be frustrating, because you want to do something and your children are at a point where they either want to engage or are able to engage, but they will. We've proved it. Guess it's May tomorrow. So we're 2 years in, over 2 years in now to home education, and admittedly it was a slow start, but once we hit our stride, just the work they put in, the effort they've put in, and the demand to know more has just been fantastic. I can't recommend home education enough, but obviously with a disclaimer, it's not always easy. It can be tiring and it can be frustrating, but if you want your children to flourish and you're able to do it, then I'd say do it. Anyway, you don't need to hear me witter on anymore. In fact, you probably switched off minutes ago. But if you didn't, and you want to find out what else I've got to say about home education, subscribe or whatever else, even though I promised myself I was never going to ask people to subscribe. Oh, go on, subscribe. That way I can build up a bit of a conversation if you're interested, and we can get on with it. That'd be great. Anyway, please come back to see my other videos at some point. They might be interesting. like this one probably isn't. See ya. Yeah, in the words of Peter Falk as Columbo, one more thing. Although I'll probably make a video about this anyway. When you say you're going to home educate, or when you tell people you're going to home educate, you get, is it a good idea? What about your kid? What about socialisation? It's always socialisation. Don't know why. It's the big one. How are your kids going to socialise? Well, our kids socialise more than they would at school. Because let's be honest, school environment, you, as a child, sit in your chair and you're told, don't talk. Stop what you're doing. Look at me. Listen. And people go, yeah, but playtimes, yeah, 15 minutes. Not counting the lunch break. Maybe 50 minutes in the morning, 50 minutes in the afternoon. Half an hour. Very small group of people. Probably the kids you're in the same class as. But that's not a lot of socialisation. Because lunchtimes, yeah, you get your food, and maybe you got, I don't know, another 15 minutes. Maybe as much as half an hour. But, yeah, that's getting in and coming out into the playtime, assuming you're allowed to play. So how much socialisation do you get at school compared to how much you could get at home? Because home educators go off to museums, go for days out, probably have a wider children, this is, and wider social circle of mixed ages, and so have a better understanding of socialisation. Anyway, I might make a video about that, or I might not. I'm really going this time. See ya.